Please rise as we call on Pastor Tom Peterson, Bethlehem Lutheran Church, for our invocation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's join together in this prayer. Almighty God, your desire is that we would live in community, beginning in our homes and our extended families, our neighborhoods, Lord, the towns, the cities that we grow up in, and beyond. Lord, help us to seek to understand one another instead of just insisting on being understood. Lord, there are big picture solutions out there. Lord, to take the time, the effort to work them through. Lord, it's not easy. We love this community. Lord, it's rich history. It's present life right now filled with exciting possibilities. Lord, help us to envision a future and to build it. I thank you for all of our elected officials sitting around this table. Thank you for their willingness to serve. I thank you for the heads of the different departments and the personnel, Lord, on all levels here doing their work. We pray, keep them safe. No, Lord, we love this. We love Fergus Falls. And we just pray that as it is governed wisely, that all the needs of children and our seniors, our families, and all in between, Lord, that needs might be met. So thanks for this community. Guide us, guide this meeting. May Fergus Falls be worthy of being a progressive, caring community. In your precious name. Thanks for all here. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this March 3rd City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Sinslin. Here. Shire.
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Fish. Psychos. Runquist.
Here.
Sinslin.
Here.
And Hicks.
We have a quorum. Before we begin the agenda, I'd first like to introduce Scout Troop 312 that are sponsored by the Knights of Columbus are here with us this evening. Would you gentlemen please stand so that we can acknowledge you and thank you for coming. We're happy to have you here. Thank you. We will be changing the agenda slightly. There are no public hearings this evening, but we'll go to a item awarding of bids. But thereafter, the second item on the agenda was to be Historic Properties, a regional center project. We're going to be moving that to the back of the agenda at the tail end, old business. And at that point in time, Mr. Ray Willie of Historic Kirkbride LLC will be presenting his project, and following that, we will adjourn to a closed meeting.
And we won't be reconvening.
And we will not be reconvening that meeting. Thank you. Under bids, the first item will be a resolution to approve airport consultant contract agreement, but I believe, Dan Edwards, are you going to be introducing our new engineer?
Brian Navarro is the assistant city engineer, and Brian is in charge of essentially all our airport projects now. So he will be presenting the memo on the consultant selection.
Thank you, and welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As Dan stated, my name is Brian Navarro. I've been designated as a new assistant city engineer for Fergus Falls. I'm also a licensed professional engineer with the state of Minnesota. And so, as Dan mentioned and everything, I've been designated as an airport contact for the Fergus Falls Municipal Airport. I will be working with the airport manager and our future or existing consultant during the selection and everything for all the funding requirements and improvement projects of the airport. My first task was to facilitate this airport consultant selection. Based on, you all have the memo and everything there, the FAA requires an airport sponsor, such as the Fergus Falls Airport, to conduct this selection process every 5 years. That being said, as indicated on the panel there, the FAA advisory circular has guidelines that we're supposed to follow throughout this process. The process has been followed. By selecting this airport consultant, the city will be satisfying the FAA's requirements for an airport sponsor by designating an experienced airport engineering consultant. Throughout this process, we advertised and we came under the consent with the Airport Advisory Committee. We have recommended maintaining and renewing the existing relationship with SEH under this process.
Would someone offer that resolution?
I'll offer it, Your Honor.
Scott, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that. And
Randy?
I do have a question. Looking through the memo, I'm not seeing any dollar amounts associated with this consulting agreement.
That is correct. The FAA will not allow, you cannot select a consultant based on fees. Those are negotiated through individual projects that are to come. Yes, of course, the fees are standards, pretty well standards and everything, but with the FAA, you can only select them based on their qualifications.
Okay. All right, so then any fees would be on future projects that they're
Correct.
associated with. That's
Correct.
where we would see those bills
Correct.
come in. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Sinstler.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachels.
Yes.
Rundquist.
Yes.
Sinstler.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no open forum request this evening. Under the consent agenda, the following are non-controversial items intended to be approved with one motion without discussion. If a council member, staff, or member of the public would like to discuss an item, please ask that it be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda. Item 1, resolution to approve budget adjustments for De Lagoon Park donations. And I'll ask Bill Sunmore if you would address that.
Sure. The city, we have received a check from State Bank and Trust in the amount of $9,600 to be used towards fencing improvements out at De Lagoon Park. So as that's a donation coming in, bringing that forward to you to accept that and then apply that to that complex. We'd also received $4,900 from the Eagles in 2013 that looking at carrying that forward now into this year when we're actually going to do the project. So adjust this year's budget so we can spend it on the project when we'll actually construct it. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
We appreciate those donations exceptionally. Item 2, a resolution to approve donation from 544 Foundation for the Community Arena in the amount of $82,671.66. Total received to date, $2,625,242.84.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes.
Just late in the day, received in the mail donations for the next month, so for February. So I'd actually like to have that resolution changed to accepting donations for $104,000, $13.32. And that brings collected to date up to $2,646,584.53.
Thank you. Item 3, a motion to appoint Luann Hanson to the HRA Board of Directors. Item 4, a motion to approve minutes from the February 18, 2014 City Council meeting. Ben,
I'd like to discuss that one, Your Honor.
separately?
I just had a comment on it, so I don't,
All
you want
right.
me to do that now or take it off? I don't the
What
middle.
would you prefer?
Let's just take it off of there.
Sure.
We'll place that at the end of the agenda, of this
Consent
agenda.
agenda.
Sure.
Motion to approve licenses, and you have a copy of that on your desk. We'll call for a resolution approving the consent agenda with the exception of item 4. I'll accept a motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tim? Roll call, please.
Sinstolin.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachels.
Yes.
Runquist.
Yes.
Sinstolin.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. Thank you. We will then reconsider the motion to approve the minutes of the February 18th meeting. Ben?
I'll offer the motion to accept them. I just want to make the comment that there was some confusion as to the motion that I offered as to the waiving the fees for the lining of the fields and the tournament place. So I know that the intent of the motion wasn't clear, but going back, I know my microphone is off. So at some point between the start of the season, when the full council's here, I'd just like to bring that issue up again and clarify it. So the intent is clear to everyone. So that's all, that was my open. But I'll make the motion to accept them as they are.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that, Your Honor.
Randy? Any questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Motion is carried. Thank you. Under item H, which are ordinance and resolutions, there is no first readings or second readings or resolutions. Item I is presentation of claims this evening in the amount of $1,306,485.47. And if you have any questions about any item, please refer them to Bill Sonmore. Otherwise, I'll entertain a resolution to approve.
I'll offer that resolution.
Tim, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Scott? Any questions? Roll call, please.
Sinstolin.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachels.
Yes.
Runquist.
Yes.
Sinstolin.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Item J, Board, Committee, and Departmental Reports. Item 1, a resolution to approve variance request for Al Krameyer at 923 North Vine Street for a reduced setback from the ordinance requirements. Guy Taylor, are you commenting on that?
Yes, I will, as soon as I can get our screen up. If I need help, I might have to call on one of the Boy Scouts. Okay, this is just an aerial view of the Krameyer property, which is outlined in blue. The Board of Zoning did hold a public hearing on February 24th to consider the request of Al Krameyer for the city to grant a variance to him to reduce his setback at 923 North Vine. The Board of Zoning, after hearing Mr. Krameyer's request, heard testimony of a neighbor and considered many letters of support from area property owners. The board feels that this request for the variance should be granted. There's a 3-factor test that the state says we must apply to each request, and the Board of Zoning feels that each of the criteria in that 3-factor test has been met. So if you can see the arrow on the property of there on the map, that is where the Krameyer addition is proposed to be attached to the dwelling. That addition is 18 feet to the north of that dwelling, which would reduce the setback to 2 feet. The required setback, as you see there in the text, is 30 feet because he is on a corner lot. So the reduction would be from 30 to 2. Some of the factors that play into this is that is right on the corner of Vine Street and Beach. Beach goes to the west there and dead ends where you see that red line. And beyond that to the west is Broadway Park. So no further development will occur to the west there. There's 2 other properties to the west of the Krameyers, One gave a call into City Hall, but was indifferent towards the request, so she wasn't opposed. We'll leave it at that. But we got many other letters in support. And one other thing to consider is, if you see right across the street here, this property, you see that? That property is within 4 feet of the right-of-way. In talking with Mr. Krameyer, we said, well, as staff, we wouldn't need to go through the variance process if you could just do your addition and line it up with that property across the street. But he feels he needs the extra 2 feet to accomplish his project. So we did go through the hearing process, and the Board of Zoning does recommend that the City Council approve that.
Any questions? Would somebody offer a resolution?
I'll offer that resolution.
Ben,
Your Honor.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that. I
Randy?
did have one question.
Yes.
So there was no opposition from the public on this?
No opposition at all.
Okay, thank you.
Many letters in support, and
Okay.
the one property owner that was indifferent.
Roll call, please.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rundquist.
Yes.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you. Resolution, the second item under reports, a resolution to approve variance request for Ryan Welly at 1425 Highway Terrace for a reduced setback from the ordinance requirements. Would you point that out to us?
Yes, sir. Okay, here's the Welly property outlined in blue. The Board of Zoning met on that same evening, February 24th, to hear Mr. Welly's request. We looked at many letters of support. We had nobody in opposition to the request. As you can see, the city owns the property to the west, Godell Park. His request is to reduce that side yard setback from 10 feet to 2 feet. The addition that he's proposed to his house there is necessary for more enclosed space for his vehicles and a entryway. The three-factor test was met, the Board of Zoning felt, and so yeah, the Board of Zoning is requesting that the City Council grant this variance.
Would someone offer a resolution?
I would
Randy?
offer that, Your
Thank
Honor.
you. Is there a second?
second it.
Scott, any questions?
Just one
Comments?
question, just one question.
Ben?
So Godell Park is the neighbor, it goes all the way up to his property?
Yep,
correct?
Godell Park goes right up to that blue line on Welly's west.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rundquist.
Yes.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
Resolution is approved. Thank you. Item 3, a resolution to approve 2014 rates for Pebble Lake Golf Course. Are you addressing that?
I can certainly start that off, or did you want to from the committee, or?
Yeah, the committee basically didn't make, we just made a recommendation to bring the rates forward that we could address, so why don't you go ahead and start that conversation, Bill?
Yeah, at the committee, the golf board was here and brought before you their rate structure. We have a lease agreement with the golf board, and each year they need to bring their rates for the coming year before you for your approval. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I speak incorrectly, but basically it was a 3% rate increase overall to their rates, except to some of their junior rates, I believe, and student rates probably. Is that right? So that's what's before you on the rate structure, and you had those in your packets as well, so.
Any questions? Someone offer a resolution to approve? Stan, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Your
Ben?
Honor. Just one
Yes.
question. So when we, I think, maybe we get to this later in the meeting, but we're going to talk about, you know, not a Band-Aid approach, but maybe comprehensive review of the golf course financials and going forward as city. The rate review that we talked about at the meeting, you know, just getting a comparison from other municipal courses in the area. That'll be part of that discussion?
Correct.
we anticipate? Okay.
Yep, coming in the future, I would see that if we look at that, we were talking about the golf board is going to be having their spring fundraiser. So we'll see how that goes, and after that process, so probably in April is when we would be looking at that process.
Sure.
Your Honor, I
Scott?
think we talked about the second meeting in April, so we're trying to work out, is that kind of what you and I?
I think
First
that
week, and I
sounds
think that
right.
Harold's going to be at the first meeting, so we kind of wouldn't want to rush everything together.
And we really wouldn't have time because their fundraiser is right at the end of
Right.
March, right?
Yeah.
So we'd be getting right into that first meeting of April. That wouldn't be possible, but yep, the second meeting.
Second week, second one, yes.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Lundquist.
Yes.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you. The next item is a resolution to approve budget request from Pebble Lake Golf Course. And Bill, would you
Sure.
address that?
They were here to go over their budget with you. They went through some of their past history as well as their 2014 budget and some of the changes that they're proposing in order to improve performance financially at the golf course. Before you was a request for $33,750 coming out of our operating budget of the general fund. Now, within the general fund and then under Park and Recreation, we have within that department a golf course area. And I had provided you a memo that told you the amount of funding we have available that could go towards that request. We pay our property insurance and our city liability insurance over the golf course because we do own that. We pay an Otter Tail County solid waste assessment that comes on the property tax bill, but it's just the solid waste assessment portion of that. The remainder is capital outlay, and the 2014 budget for capital outlay was $39,240. Plus we have some capital outlay that we're carrying forward from the prior year that was not spent of about $18,985. So that would bring total expendable dollars for the golf course at $58,235. So that's where I would see their request coming from, is from those operating dollars. In the past few years, we've used that for equipment where we've actually purchased some mowers that the city does own. We're able to pull those over to Pebble Lake to Day Lagoon Park and use them over there as well. But this year, looking at using that funding to go towards helping out with some operations, and they gave you that list in the committee of what that was for. So that's the request for $33,750. That request could have been brought down to $24,250, is that right? So that difference, they did mention at the committee that if it was not needed, they could return that $9,000 or so to the city for that. But the other amounts wouldn't be. This wouldn't be a loan. This would be a contribution, so.
Ben?
And so the reason for the 33, just to clarify, was that the fundraiser was not going to happen before some of the March bills were paid. So it was my understanding that if we authorize the 33, it's only going to be, for the 24, correct? I mean, we would get the 9,000 back. The 9,000 would be a short-term loan. That if we do authorize it, it's going to be 24,000.
In essence, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, we hadn't talked about being an official loan, but in essence, that's how it would be, so.
Okay.
Someone offer a resolution to approve the request?
I'll offer, Your Honor.
Scott, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Tim? Any other comments?
I just had the comment. I think we had the discussion at the committee level and a little bit earlier that I understand the golf course is an asset, but as we discussed at the committee level, I get a lot of calls on the golf course. And each year, the Band-Aid approach, I think I agree that, and I've talked to supporters of the golf course too, they don't agree. So I really feel strongly that this year we need to tackle the long-term financial picture, including the debt, including the operating structure, membership fees, and just really have a plan going forward that we know that it's fiscally sound. I mean, I appreciate the work the golf board does, and again, I know it's an asset, but I really think this year we need to try to do what we can to tackle that.
Yeah, and that will be our plan to come back in April and discuss those other items and just bring it for decision so that we see where we go.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
Shire.
Yes.
Rachels.
Yes.
Rundquist.
Yes.
Sinstlen.
Yes.
The resolution is approved. Thank you. There are no reports from staff and administrative officers. Item L is old business, and at this point, we will introduce Mr. Ray Willie, Historic Kirkbride LLC, who will present his project to us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to be here, and I'm here tonight with Bill Brown, my partner. Bill's from Georgia, I'm from California, and we're here enjoying the weather.
I'm sure you are.
It's different. We like it. We've been here the past 5 days, conducting some meetings and so forth. We take off tomorrow, but I wanted to take a moment to update you all, let you know the status of our project and the progress. Just in the last 5 days, we've met with a number of city officials and others relative to the project. Mark Seifert, Mayor Howe, Gordon, City Attorney Rolfe, Dan Edwards, Len Taylor, Harold Stanislawski, and others. Did also have the opportunity to kind of interface with some of the folks that aren't necessarily city officials, but supporters of the project, like Gene and Maxine Schmidt. Had some meetings with them, and Lori and Miles Mullen. Michelle Anderson with Springboard for the Arts, Bud Nonis, Tim and Lisa Litt, and a number of others, including Anthony Hicks. I know Anthony had to be called out of town here, but he's been real helpful since he was installed as a liaison. It's been a real positive, productive a connection to make, and we're thankful for that. And I just wanted to say thank you for the support. Every time we've asked for something, everybody's been extremely courteous and responsive and helpful, so it makes a big difference in what we're trying to do. Did want to clarify, when we got into town Thursday, we were shown an article from the paper that day, and it said something about Summerfest, and they had, organizers of that had contacted us and didn't get a response. Well, they're right. They did contact us. We didn't know it. We didn't get the email, and we fumbled the ball. As soon as I saw that article, I called Julie Gray and apologized to her, told her that we had no intention not to respond, and our response would be positive, as it is always has been. We would embrace that, and we wanted to assure her that if we do at some point in time take ownership and control of the property, we would hope and wish that Summerfest would be held there, and do everything in our power to make that happen, as well as some of the other groups and organizations. Behind me, I know, is Michelle Anderson with Springboard for the Arts. She's here with some friends representing Play Space Productions and the Walking Theater performances, and I think all of those community-based events and programs are ideal setting for that, and we would certainly embrace that and support it. The past 5 days, we've discussed a myriad of specific details on the Kirkbride, some of which probably appear a bit mundane. Parking, infrastructure, roads, streets, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, zoning, green space, landscape, etc. All of it necessary to the whole, but probably none of it to earth-shattering discussions. But wanted to come back to our general plan. Our general plan, our overall plan that we originally made essentially remains the same. We've done some tweaking, and we've done some a refining of it, particularly in the area of the apartments. We've kind of toyed with the idea of making them a little thematic, not exclusively, but trying to attract a certain following, and working with Michelle Anderson and Springboard for the Arts. We're thinking of taking the 4th floor on the west wing, that's apartments, and making those artists' lofts, They really lend themselves well to that with the pitch ceilings and so forth, and kind of a work and a live space. As you know, those wings swing out. Every so often there are intermediate common rooms that are larger than the footprint of the wing itself. And we envision 2 or 3 or 4 of those common areas on the 4th floor being used for common space, one for a lounge with a TV and computers and all that for the tenants, but the others for maker's space. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term. It's a popular movement where artists come together all over the country in different buildings, a lot of commercial buildings, industrial buildings, that they provide common space to make things and do their woodworking and their crafts. And I would see 2 or 3 of these rooms that can accommodate pottery with a kiln, sculpting, metalwork, jewelry, ironwork, woodworking, glass work that not only the tenants can use, but the public could access. And it would all be there for them. They can come in and use these common areas. We're thinking of other floors, maybe one floor that would be, again, not exclusively dedicated, but trying to attract that group, that younger crowd of a tech crowd, computer crowd with computer rooms and things, maybe a musician type of a wing or a floor. We thought that might be a creative way to stand out and do something a little different to attract some young folks into the building. I'm sure that with 5 or 6 eateries in the building, and even the hotel, and maybe to a smaller degree the apartments, will provide part-time and a few full-time jobs. And I would envision that many of these younger students and the younger crowd that we would attract into the apartments would in turn work in some of these establishments, especially the restaurants. It works out great for them if they're in school or they have jobs, other jobs to work and be flexible with the restaurants and so forth. It's a great match for them. And I can almost see kind of create an environment where you have a work and a live and a play space. And you can do all those things. They can go into the coffee shop and get a bagel and a coffee, or go and hang out in the park, or it's kind of all created there, a little bit almost of a village effect setting for that. It's interesting, of these makers spaces that are around the country, there is one in Somerset, Massachusetts, that is literally called Artisans Asylum. And it's a serene, peaceful, almost healing setting. So it's a cool concept, and we're hoping to develop that. We are looking at one additional new restaurant concept, a brew pub. We have not contacted anyone, so we're just looking, just beginning the process. We got to thinking, with 83,000 square feet of restaurant and cafeteria space, there would be enough room to put a brew pub in, and we think the historic brick building would be a great, great venue for that, with the old style, historic look. The biggest thing we've worked on, though, in the last few months has been the due diligence. We made a proposal to you, what we proposed to do, what we hoped to do, what we thought we could do. Then we had to take a number of months to make sure that we can, in fact, do those things, that we can raise the money, and that we can, even if we raise the money, pull it off, put it together, and it will work and sustain itself. Our proposal has about $18 million of borrowed funds in there that have to be repaid. This thing has to work and pay its way. So we've gone round and round with that. The lease rates are limited as to what we can charge for all of that. The apartments, the restaurant operators, the hotel operator. Because of the marginality and seasonality issues, we've tried to cap that down low and make it all work. We think we can make it work. In the closed session, we're going to disseminate some confidential information to that effect. But we have spent quite a bit of time, several months, trying to sort that out, to attract these tenants, get them to say yes, get them to sign in a setting that needs some help, the whole economics of it. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, and juxtaposing that and sorting it out. But we think it'll work, and we'll talk more about that later. Wanted to give you an update and report to you, and that we are moving forward. We are progressing now. Our progress is probably slower than what we all had hoped for, but we are cracking away at it and making progress. We hope to be able to come back soon when we get the approvals for the financing and say we have a deal, and that's our end goal, and that's what we're hoping for. We have some timelines that we've talked to Ken about on that we'll share with you in the next meeting. Would say too, a project this size and scope, it does take a lot of effort and work and sorting out and thinking of alternatives, and sometimes go to plan A and you go to plan B and you're trying to make it all work. So we're happy to be here. We love the town, we love the building, we love the people, and we're committed to continuing the process through the end. Thank you.
You're ending.
Yeah, Ray, I appreciate your taking time and coming and giving us an update.
Sure.
One of the questions that I've been asked several times over the last few months when it became known what your proposal was, and do you have demographics or studies that would support the additional 5 to 6 eateries? We've had numerous restaurants come and go within Fergus, and we want to. Could you just speak to that
Sure.
aspect of your project?
Sure. We did do studies in that area of the eateries, and our view is this. We would have to create somewhat of a destination. Now, I've heard terms national destination, regional destination. We're hoping to create a regional destination where people come from the county and maybe a little bit further beyond that would say, hey, I want to go and see this place and check it out, and I want to be able to try a good restaurant in there. We're proposing all new restaurants, and I've said that all along. We have been very mindful and sensitive to not wanting to come here and try and grab a tenant from another place and leave a vacancy there, but I fill this one up here. So we are creating new eateries. But our research is telling us that it can work so long as there's a little bit of a draw behind the immediate area.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Yes, along those lines, what further ideas do you have in terms of marketing the property beyond this area?
We are planning to hire a full-time general manager whose primary duties would be marketing, a marketing specialist. It would be housed in the Memorial Building. We are building temporary construction offices in there, but permanent housing for staff, security and things, and a general manager of this entire complex. We don't know who that person will be yet. Haven't gone down that far or down that path at all, but that would be our intention. And then this individual would work within the confines of the city and everyone else here to market the destination.
Thank you.
On an ongoing basis. So this general manager would run it, be responsible for the whole thing, but his primary duties would be marketing.
Other questions? Should the project go forward, and we assume it will, where would you begin with your construction?
I would start on the west wing and take those 3 sections. They're about 60,000 square foot each. Some are 53. And do them in sequence, not exactly staged. When I hear the term staged, to me that means doing a section and coming back 2 or 3 years later, mothballing it and coming back when you have the money or you have the tenant or whatever. I would sequence it, moving from, if you're looking at the plot map, from left to right on the west attached, and move our way in 3 stages as those apartments are concerned. And we think there's probably capacity to handle that many square feet. You got to remember too, you're deducting the basement space off of this. There's about 565,000 square feet that we're looking at. But there's a big chunk of it that's basement space in both wings and under the tower that we're not going to renovate. It'll be dead space that we'll use for distribution systems. We also don't have to do a lot of renovating to the gymnasium, which is 32,000 square feet. So you whittle it down to about 400,000 square feet. But of that amount, we do it in sequence. And when I say sequence, you'd start on the very far side of the west attached. You would say do demolition. I'm making these numbers up and dates up, but say you do it in March. In April, you move and you do demolition on the next wing over, and now you're doing rough framing. And then the following month, you keep moving it down. So you sequence it out. And we believe in what we've looked at in terms of the workforce in the area, that there would be the capacity to do what really is not 50,000 square feet when you take the deductions out. You take the deduct out, it's probably more like 30. I think it's 31, Bill, or 33, something like that, 1,000 square feet, which is a manageable number to be able to do one section at a time. Work our way across through that up to the restaurants, and then back down to the hotel. The future building we left in the back really would be phased. We don't have a use for that. But it's not a bad phasing because that building's detached, it's in the back. It's really hard to do a phase thing. Say if I put apartments on the first floor, but I left the second, third, can you imagine doing work in there with diamond tips, saw blades, cutting floors out, water coming down? It's a mess. So we're trying to make it work to where you can sequentially do it all at once, the major portions of it. In fact, when you deduct for the back building, it's less than 400,000. So it would be the apartments, restaurants, back down to the hotel, and then a future use for that back maintenance building and the powerhouse building.
So, thank you for being here, Mr. Willie. Assuming that your funding came through, and now knowing what you've known that you've got in this project, and like you said, it takes a lot of time and it's a big project. What's the end timeline, assuming the funding sources that you're waiting to hear on in the near future? What's the end timeline look like now for that main construction that you just outlined?
We have been told by all the funding sources that our furthest date to get approval for all of them is the end of August of this year. And in talking with Kent Madsen and others, we thought it was reasonable to take that time period to do the applications and hopefully achieve the official approvals. One comes in June or July, one comes in July, and the other in probably the end of August. One of those is not competitive. It's a matter of doing the paperwork right. You still have to go through the process. The other two are not competitive, but there's no guarantees of approval. One is reliant on federal funding. They think they're going to get their funding, their allocation, and they'll know the end of May, the first week of June. But it's still somewhat up in the air. But based on what we have laid out to these groups, they feel our project, because of the nature of the building and all of those other criteria, job creation and impact, economic impact, and community support, our group, our history, all of these factors weigh in to cause our project to rise to a fairly high level for consideration. So we're comfortable with that, but again, no guarantees. So let's supposing it goes all the way till the end of August this year. I would envision, and this is just me, we'd have to work all this out with the city. I would envision the city sometime in September or thereafter doing their work with the remaining state funds that are left for the infrastructure and so forth that they need to do while they still have ownership of the property, that would transpire beginning in September. I'm not sure how long that would take before that would all be done, and then they would turn it back over to us. But let's assume it took 6 months or so for the city to do that work. We would then look at a timeline of a year and a half or 2 years maybe to do all this through sequence.
Thanks.
Yes, Dan.
So if by August, excuse me, by August, if those federal funds don't come through, you got a backup plan?
I would say say this. You take your best shot, you think it's going to work, you hope it's going to work, but if it doesn't, you have to go to a backup plan. We are looking at some alternatives right now. We don't have a plan per se. We have some ideas of what we could do as a backup plan. But no, we wouldn't be able to sit here and produce a plan B yet. Be happy to share some of those with you. Some of it is connected to the discussion we need to defer till the closed session.
Do we have a plan in place for articulating how things are progressing regarding the financing, the approval?
I think so. That's part of what we've done with Anthony as a liaison and Mark and Kent in terms of a weekly conference call every Wednesday that we do, and we have minutes and deliverables that both sides are complying with. So I would say that satisfies that.
Excellent. Good.
So do you feel you have everything from the city you need at this point? You have the communication, you have the cooperation, you have, is there anything else the city
Absolutely.
can- Okay.
Absolutely not. No. Couldn't ask for it to be any better.
Other questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very, very much. And thank you to Bill Brown for being here and spending this time with us, too. We appreciate that greatly. Is Kent going to address the, any issues here?
Just a closed session.
Pardon me?
Just a closed session.
Okay. All right. Any other business to come before our meeting? If not, we will be adjourning the meeting to have a closed meeting with Mr. Willie, and we will not be reconvening to any other meeting after that. Any other business? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.